Hello, this is Jenny D, and today I'm going to be doing a video on using Chameleon markers. Now, I am by no means an expert on these. This is only the third time I've used them, but from the comments on the Colouring for All colouring group, people wanted to see a video because there's not that much out there on these markers yet. They're quite a new product. I've used them 3 times and I've done okay with them. So I'm going to show you very quickly how to colour a few areas on a page. Now I'm going to start with crimson red. Now these markers have 2 nibs on them. They have a fine brush marker and they have a bullet marker. A bullet nib. I'm going to use the bullet nib for this particular area. I'm going to be colouring in first of all this heart here, and these pens work best in smaller areas because you have to colour with them fairly quickly. The change in the colour happens quite quickly. So this is the charging chamber. And you can see in there there's a clear nib, and that's full of whatever it is that changes the colour. I think it must be something that dissolves the alcohol-based ink. Now with these markers you need to hold the chamber vertically. First time I tried to use them horizontally and it won't work because these are actually gravity fed. So you start by putting your nib up into the charging chamber like that and count. So I'm going to count to 3. 1, 2, 3. I only counted to 3 because I'd already talked for a little bit longer. And then I'm going to start colouring. You can see it's fairly light colour to start with and gets darker as you go along. You do have very little room for error in these with using these markers. You do have to colour quite quickly, so I do go out of the lines a lot to start with. It's going to take a little while to get better at them. And hopefully you can see that it's made a lighter area up the top there because of the charged nib. Now I'll show you on a piece of paper exactly what that looks like, and this time I'm going to count for about 6 seconds to get a really good change in the colour. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And start colouring, and you see it's fairly light and then gets darker as you go. Now this paper is not the best for these markers, and it's bleeding a lot on me and spreading a lot. Let's try that again. I'm just going to charge it up for a little bit longer and give it another go. They also suggest that you colour with the pen in a fairly vertical position, otherwise you get streaking, and I always forget that because I tend to colour sideways because I'm worried that I'm going to damage the nib. But there you can see the nice colour change as the pen went from having very little ink on it, and as gravity fed the ink down it got to a darker colour. Okay, so I've done one side of my heart. Let's do the other side. I've got just a plain piece of plastic's an old laminated sheet underneath my work, as it is bleeding through, and I don't want to damage the desk. So I'm going to charge the chamber up for about 8 seconds this time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I'm going to test it first. No, not enough, so I'm going to charge it up a little bit more. 1, 2, 3, 4, and start colouring. Yeah, that's nice and light, nice and pale. And as it's coming down, I'm getting a nice darker colour. This is a bit streaky again. I've forgotten to do it vertically. And I have found that colouring curves or arcs is a lot more difficult than colouring straight lines or from side to side to get a nice even colour. But you will find that as that spreads a little bit, it will become a little bit more even. That's one of the good things about them spreading on the paper. This one that I did earlier here, that was quite streaky when I first did it, but it's smoothed out as the ink has spread. Okay, so that's the red. Now let's do a smaller area. I'm going to do this little teardrop here. And I'm going to use aquamarine. I do find that the darker colours give a much nicer change in colour. Okay, so I'm going to charge this up for about, let's try 8 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And start colouring. Now this time I'm going to go side to side, and hopefully you'll see that it will work nicer. Yep, that's coming down to a nice darker colour. It's very hard not to go out of the lines when you're colouring so quickly, but that worked really nicely. Okay, now I'm going to do this little circle here, charge it up for. Now once you've already charged it up, if you haven't gone right back to the darkest colour, which I probably have now, it's probably, yep, there you go, back to the darkest colour. You don't need to charge it up as much the second time because some of the ink is already gone. But as I've gone back to the darkest colour there, I'm going to charge it up for 8 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I'm starting with little circles in the middle of this circle. It's still very pale, so I'm just going round and round in the one spot until I can see it changing colour. And now it's starting to change colour, so I'm going to go around the outside. It's still very slow in changing colour. I must have put too much charge on it this time. I'm going to get rid of some of that. That's better. And there you can see that I've got a nice light centre and darker on the outside, but unfortunately it has bled through onto my other colour there, but that's okay. It happens on some papers and not on others. Okay, now let's try one of these leaves on this, oh, petal I should say, on this flower. This time I'm using deep violet. No, actually that's not the right colour. I want purple grape. Yep, that's right, purple grape. And I'm going to use the thick nib again. And I'm going to give this a really good charge up. I'll show you the undiluted colour. It's quite a dark colour. And I want it to be a sort of a lighter purple like it is up in these flowers up here. So I'm going to charge it for 10 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then start colouring in. Now this is when it gets really quite tricky, is I'm kind of going around a shape as I colour. But I haven't done that too badly. Oh. Went out of the lines there. And then when I've got back to the darkest colour, I'll just fill in that into the petal. Do that again. 10 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you can see it does take a little bit of fiddling, putting it in the chamber, charging it up, taking it out. But it is nice. I really like these. They're fun. I'm going out of the lines quite a lot. I imagine that I'll get better as I go. And try that again. 10 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and a little bit more. 10. Now don't be tempted to try and go back if you've missed a bit, because the colour will have changed and you'll end up with really bad streaks. As I learnt with my very first work, it was very streaky and I tried to go back in and fix up and you just can't. You just kind of have to accept it. And I haven't been counting, but never mind, I'll just, whatever comes out, comes out. That's about enough time. Oh, that's nice and light, lovely. Obviously when I'm talking, I get a better charge of the pen. And I find too when you get a better charge of the pen, you've got a little bit more time, you can colour a little bit slower. which is nice. Petal turned out beautifully. I'll do another one. So I might charge it up for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and a little bit more, and a little bit more. There we go. Let's try that. As you can see, this is an exact science. Not. But it is lots of fun, and you can get some really interesting effects. Okay, then that's that petal done. Now obviously you don't have to use these in their changey state. You can use them without charging them up. So I'm going to show you that now by using this blue, which is sky blue, in these areas here. It's quite a nice light blue colour, and because the purple leaked, or bled into those little areas, the blue will blend with it quite nicely, as it's blue and red make purple. So you can see that it's bled, but hey, it's just part of the design, isn't it? And in the middle, I'm going to use one of my favourite colours, is Spring Meadow, which is really unusual because green is very rarely one of my favourite colours. But I just really like the way this one changes. It sort of changes from a yellow, really yellowy green to a darker green. And I'm going to go around and around this spiral, and hopefully you'll be able to see a really nice change. So I'm going to charge that up for 10 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So it should be really light to begin with. Yep, virtually no colour there at all. So if I get absolutely no colour, sometimes I just go over and over the same area until the colour starts to change. And I remember to put my pen vertically. Yep, starting to get more colour there now, so I'm working my way around the spiral. And I can do this bit quite slowly because it's a very small area. I'm even just waiting a little bit for the ink to filter down through gravity. Or you can use your paper just to get a little bit more ink out. And that's worked nicely, so I'll just show you that. Oh, missed a bit around the outside. I'll show you how that spiral worked. Hold this up, oops. Hold this up close to the camera. Hopefully you can see that. It's really nice and light in the middle and gets darker as it goes out. Okay, now I'm going to show you how I did these wiggly lines here, because you can get some nice sort of 3D effects with wiggly lines. And I'm going to use, what colour haven't I used? Use the orange. That one charges up nicely as well. So I'm going to start on this part of a, well, it's actually part of a larger spiral, but I'm going to start. You have to plan your work with these chameleons a little bit. You have to plan where your light's going to go and where your dark's going to go. So I think I'd like it darker in towards the circle, so I'm going to plan it so that the lighter bit is on the outside of this line. Get my texture out. Oh, sorry, you don't call it texture in America, do you? Marker. And charge it up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That'll do. And start colouring. Yep, virtually no colour there, so I'm just going to go over it again a couple of times. And yep, now I'm starting to get colour, so I'll move in towards the circle, and again I can colour this one fairly slowly. It seems to depend on the marker and the area as to how quickly or slowly you can colour. Obviously the larger the area, you have to go really, really fast. I don't recommend it for large areas. I tried that and it was really quite difficult. And now I'm going to do this part, so again I want it light here and darker in towards the circle, so I'll charge up my pen. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think that'll do because it was a little bit light last time. Yeah, even now it's still a little bit pale. I think I'll wait until it darkens a little bit. There we go, it's starting to darken now, and colour side to side as the colour starts gravity feeding down towards the nib. And I'm getting a nice blend. Yeah, I like that. And again, it has bled into here, but don't worry about that. I'm just going to use some other markers. You don't have to use these markers exclusively on their own. You don't have to use them as a changing type marker. You can use them with pencils as well. And I think that's probably about it. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Again, I must apologise, I'm not an expert on this, but I just thought this little video might help some people decide whether the Chameleon markers is for them. I do recommend them though, they're lots of fun. Okay, see you next time.